Alright, what up, you filthy animals? So, it is the eve of UFC 280. It is upon us. Dude, it feels like Halloween as a kid or something. Or it's a holiday. It's coming. Oh, I didn't circle these. I got them. So, I got my, I got a little sheet of notes here. This time, just didn't just go off the top of my head. Wait on that one. So, these here are my picks, barring anything crazy changing. Like, just heard that perhaps there's a rumor that Islam Makhachev struggled making weight, which I want to say is stupid, but at the same time, like, Khabib struggled missing weight like a bunch, so that's kind of annoying. Which could change betting for people and everything, and maybe my pick if I'm picking him. Who knows? Well, anyway, so we'll start at the bottom. We'll go up. I'm gonna post my picks pretty much immediately after this. I picked the winner for the parlay split. If you're him, you know you're him. If you're not him, you know you're not him. I had less than 10 total submissions, which is kind of silly because it's free money, but whatever. Ultimately, I went with, I'll just say the parlay. The parlay is a 5-pick parlay for $20. Went with, well, I got it pulled up here. It came down to that and the 4-pick, but this one got a little bit more money. And to be honest, it's probably a little safer. I don't know, but we went with Rosa winning by decision. We went with Nikita Krylov straight up. Went with Bilal versus Brady going over 1.5. And then we got the women's fight, Chudagan and Fiorot, however you say it, French name, going over 1.5. And then Makhachev getting the KO or the sub, which is the only way to pick Makhachev at this point because right now he's minus 1,400, if not higher, and climbing. So it's not worth betting on at all. I mean, unless you just love putting out $1,000 to make 100, it's not, whatever it's going to be, it's not worth it. Luckily, I got him at minus 750 in my future parlay from September. But anyway, shout out to that dude for getting chosen on that. Hopefully, him will split the money. Starting off with Carl, Carol. I don't want to say. I want to say Carl the way it's spelled, but Carol Rosa. Y'all can see I got these cards while I was watching fights. But we'll go all the way down here. Carol Rosa versus Lena Landsberg. Neither one of these are too special to me. Ultimately, watching Carol, she just seems stronger. She's able to probably pick Lena up and move her around a little bit. A little more explosive on the feet and on the ground. Lena just seems, I don't know, mediocre. So, nothing crazy special about Carol Rosa. She should just easily win. Moving on to Muhammad Makhachev versus Malcolm Gordon. I honestly, I'm tell you straight up, I ain't watched film on Malcolm Gordon. I've seen his fights before. But normally I like to go back and watch the ones I've seen, or definitely some that I haven't seen. I saw this Figueiredo fight before, but there was no point. I was so sold on Muhammad Makhachev. Really, after seeing him, he's on the good list. After seeing him in London, he's been on there. I mean, he might have been the star of the good list. I don't remember, but he's on there. So it was pretty much like a no-brainer for me to pick him. To be honest, I don't even remember. I didn't even realize he's fighting Malcolm Gordon to begin with. When they said who he's fighting, I just was like, whatever, he's got to fight. I'm going with him. But if you want to look at it, Malcolm Gordon's lost to Amir Albazi, and to be honest, this would be amazing to see Amir Albazi and Makhachev face each other at some point. But he's been submitted by him. He has a bunch of submissions I've seen on here. He's been submitted, and I'm expecting Makhachev to. I know he's definitely going to go for the finish. I'm expecting him to get it. I bet on him to get it more than once. But I should have to explain this one. Pretty much, I don't know. Anybody who's picking Malcolm Gordon, he's either chasing crazy money or it's his mom, and she probably didn't pick him either. Um, not to say you can't win. If he wins, we're all screwed, all of us. But anyway, Armin Petrosian versus AJ Dobson. We all know a little bit about Petrosian. Um, looked good in his last fight. Not his last fight, but well, he fought Rodriguez. The thing that kind of surprised me. I don't remember this fight, him beating Gregory Rodriguez, because I think really highly of Gregory Rodriguez. I also think a lot of Gaio, and you'll see that obviously, heads up, I picked him on this card, but Gaio really just held him on the ground and yeah, that put his will on him and just held him and just really tight grip and keeping him on the ground. I don't see AJ Dobson being able to do that when you look at why he's lost. Petrosian can move around a lot, enough to combat, I think, Dobson's boxing. When you look at Dobson, he looked great in his first round against Jacob Malkoun, and then Jacob Malkoun just pretty much did to him, but even probably more extreme than what I'm telling you that happened to Petrosian by Kaio in the last fight. I mean, after that, his contender series, I don't think didn't look that impressive, even though he got the wild knockout. But he looked great in the first round against Malkoun, where you're like, okay, this guy is dangerous. He can land something. And again, not to say he's not, but I just don't see it happen to Petrosian. I think Petrosian can kind of jab and step back and miss some of those sharp punches by Dobson. And I think, again, maybe the gas tank will come into issue. And if Petrosian watched any video at all of the Malkoun fight, he's going to try to take Dobson down. Maybe not impose his will like that, but at least get him tired, get him unfocused, and mix in the strikes and be able to get a finish. I'm not calling for finish, but I just think that'd be the strategy. Next to Nurmagomedov, I can't remember how you say his name. It's Abukabakar. I don't know. I heard him say it. That was funny. I giggled. Anyway, another Nurmagomedov clan member versus Godsi Omar Godsi. I mess these names up, but that's to be expected. It's Abu Dhabi Russian week or whatever you want to call it. Watching the two of them, I was really back and forth. It's one of the fights that I was kind of indecisive on. Ultimately, I just went with Nurmagomedov. I think his ground presence will be the difference in this fight. I think that he can control on the ground enough to squeeze out a win here. I don't expect this fight to be like super awesome or like either one of them is going to get a knockout. I know he got dominated by Kaio also, and he has a better record heading into this. It's just, I mean, it's not UFC. Neither one of the records really UFC, and I think Nurmagomedov and being where they're being and probably having Habib in his corner, I think he's just usually on these cards, like a London card, everybody in London wins. I don't know. I feel like Nurmagomedov is not going to lose this weekend. I just think his wrestling, although he's not Khabib, I think when I watch his videos, his film, I think that he's a little bit better there. Lucas Almeida versus Tagahagava. See another one. I can't say it. Let's say it first. Zubara. I really wanted to pick Almeida. It was close. Almeida in his last fight, he got dropped in that first round, and then he came back and got dropped in a second, and then ultimately the TKO finish in the third. He looked really good. The one thing that bothers me is he lost to Daniel Zellhuber. And anybody who watched Daniel Zellhuber and bet on him, as we probably all did, it seems like a couple weeks ago, I think he absolutely sucks. And he's overhyped. And he lost to him. I know everybody's talked about that fight and that Almeida looked good. I've never seen the contender fight. But I did see his fight against Trezano, whatever you want to call it. Like I just went over with you. I mean, he got rocked in the first, looked a little wobbly. Dude's got really fast hands. Throws in, I'd say, high velocity, high volume strikes and quick. He looks a little skinny for this weight and for the matchup. I just think that his opponent is going to be able to probably stay at bay on some of those quick flurries that he's going to be throwing. And I just think he's more rounded and more experienced to this point. It should be a really good fight. That could be a fight of the night, to be honest. I wouldn't be shocked if Almeida won. I'd be upset. I wouldn't be shocked. It could be a fight of the night candidate there. Next, Nikita Krylov versus Volkan Ozdemir. Back and forth on this. I was really wanting to go with Ozdemir. I might even take him in some bets, just kind of hedge. I like the volume that he throws at, just non-stop, just throwing. But ultimately, I went Nikita Krylov. I just think he's a little bit bigger and stronger. They're both going to come out and probably bang and just throws hands, kicks, everything. Ozdemir did beat Paul Craig, whatever. This was, I believe, on the London card. Yeah, where he just kept stepping out of this stupid little. Paul Craig is annoying to watch to me. I mean, it's really weird that he's in MMA. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'm annoyed by it. But they both fought Ankalaev. They both lost Ankalaev. I think Nikita probably held his own a little bit better against Ankalaev. He has a loss to Yuri Prohashka. Can't hold that against. He's a champ. And I believe Nikita lost to Glover at some point. Yeah, he lost to Glover Teixeira. Beat Johnny Walker when he was just absolute trash. Lost to Ankalaev. And he was actually pounding Paul Craig from the top. And Paul Craig just got a very sneaky. Got to give it to him. I mean, it was out of nowhere. He was just like, and like grabbed him. I think it was an arm bar. It happened so quick, it was crazy. But other than that, he beat the mess out of Gustafsson on that London card, which any and everybody should have seen that coming. Dude's a shell of himself. He shouldn't have been in there. We all need to get knocked out, I bet on it. So I'm not giving them too much props for that. But I don't know. You just watch the common opponent and Paul Craig. I mean, he was handling it different. I just think he's a little bit bigger, stronger. I think he's going to squeeze it out. But again, this could be a fight of the night candidate. These guys, either one could get the knockout. I expect them to just be trading like crazy. So it's going to be a great fight. But I'm giving the edge to Nikita Krylov. Next, we have Kyle Brahal. I don't know how to say his last name. Muradov looks pretty good. If he wasn't fighting Kyle, I would like to look at him in some of his next fights. He's really athletic. Can move, has really good speed. I watched him against I think a Sanchez fight, and I watched no, I didn't watch Sanchez fight. I watched one of these fights, plus his loss to Meerschaert. I will say I don't give Meerschaert enough respect because the first time I ever saw him was when he got dropped by Hamzat Chimaev. But since then, I've watched him a couple times. Dude's got a chin. He sticks around. And that's what happened in this fight. Muradov was just laying hands on him. And Meerschaert was staying alive. Just a big, brute guy. He stayed up and eventually ended up getting in the choke, I think. Was it? I don't remember what submission it was. I thought it was a choke. But, yeah, he looked good until he just started kind of getting gassed because Meerschaert wasn't going down. And if that's the case, I don't see him landing the shots on Kyle like he did Meerschaert, not at all. And on top of that, Kyle's not going to get gassed, and he's probably going to take Muradov to the ground into deep waters and hold him there and pound him and just put his will on him and his weight on him. This, if you want to call it the lock of the card, like everybody. People always ask me, what's your lock? I mean, it'd be crazy to say anything is a lock. These are human beings. I don't know what this dude had for lunch or if his wife made him mad today. So I never just tell you something's a lock and be ignorant enough to tell you. I can call it my most likelies. Kyle Braulio is my lock of the card, if you wanted to call it that. I called him most likely. From there, we go to Sean Brady and Bilal Muhammad. Another thing, it's really silly when people call it a lock because I saw a dude last week call something this absolute lock of the card, and the dude got destroyed. It was the most decisive victory on the card. So, aside from that, I would just feel really silly to tell you something's a lock and somebody gets completely dominated for 3 rounds. So, it's just not in me. I'm not going to do that. Sean Brady versus Bilal Muhammad. It's kind of back and forth on this. Early on, I think just because Bilal was the underdog and I saw an opportunity to make money on a big name. But I'll be honest, I've only seen like one of Brady's fights, actually live before, so I went back and watched a bunch of them. I had seen the Chiesa fight. Um, he looked great in that. Just at the end, I think he gassed a little bit when Chiesa's coaches told him to get after it in the third round. He did, and Brady had to shoot to kind of save himself there, and he was able to still hold Chiesa down. Dude is very strong. When you get somebody on the ground, he's very, very strong. I don't know exactly how savvy he is technically, but he's very strong at holding people there. Great tight boxing, staying up on the ground, be able to bounce in and out, keeping his hand up for kicks, and just really a sound all around. Great fighter. Hasn't fought the top of the line competition yet, but everybody thinks he has great things ahead of him. I'd have to tend to agree. On top of that, I can't stay on Bilal Muhammad. I used to like him. Somewhere along the line, I liked Bilal. I watched him just box the mess out of somebody. I want to say it was like maybe it was a fight night. Maybe it was Lyman Good. I remember him just boxing the mess out of maybe Curtis Millender. Somewhere around here. I remember just when I first started watching him. And there's kind of been stages where he's changed. But he started to believe his own hype and just writing checks that he shouldn't be writing. Calling for title shots is crazy. I mean, he started calling for title shot like after beating Diego Lima. He fought Leon, and then he sits there and cries like, no, not this. I was going to beat Leon. You weren't. Leon was beating the crap out of the dude, and to be honest, Leon was probably going to knock him out. The best thing that could have happened to him for his career upon taking that fight, and he shouldn't have, was the stoppage because of eye poke. Because Leon was going to beat the crap out of him. And not even close. He's not on that level. From there, I would say like he was really boxing heavy, and then he started to get really into ground heavy and trying to hold people down. Damian Maia, especially with Stephen Thompson, it's like beat Stephen Thompson. That's really what's happened to Stephen Thompson's last couple of fights with obviously Bilal Muhammad and with Gilbert Burns. And he got a lot of credit for beating Vicente Luque, which I don't give him credit for that because, to be honest, I think Vicente Luque is at that point where he sucks. I think he's overrated. I was in there personally. They were talking about getting a title shot. I'm asking how. When you look at this, I mean, that idea is good. Always playing this audio. Gotta love him for it. It's one of these other ones, but anyway, let's just block that audio. These stupid pop-up ads on ESPN's website. Thanks, ESPN. Where was I? Anyway, I don't think that highly of Vicente Luque, so I don't give him that much credit just because he got back a loss where Vicente Luque had TKO'd him in 2016. I don't think Luque is that good or is up there. He just lost to Jeffrey Neal. Got knocked out in that. But anyway, I think Bilal's got good strength, good presence standing up, boxing, good ground game. I say he's good all around. Not great. I don't think that he's that upper echelon. I'm not sure if Brady is yet, but what I will tell you is I think that Brady's closer. He's like this, and I think Bilal's just this, and soon Bilal will be this. I don't, yeah, a little bit overrated. I think people get caught up in the name, and I'm giving Brady the win. From there, we go with the Chukagan and Fiat, however you say her name. Watching these two, man, it was when I really started watching the film on French Girl, Fiat. I really was leaning towards her. They have a common opponent, and watching her video, they both fought Mayo, whatever her name is. She throws just left, right, left, or right, left, right, whatever. She throws a 3-punch combo and a kick. And, I mean, she threw like 100 and something punches in there, and I don't know how many landed, but she's just throwing them for the sake of throwing them. They're not really landing. Actually, it was the fight I'm thinking of. They do have the common opponent, but against Bueno Silva, she's just throwing in, and Bueno Silva has her arms up. Now, some of them are getting through, but mostly they're not. So I don't know if her strategy is to get her opponent tired and kind of just break their will with her pace and make them just kind of give up. But she threw 291 strikes in that fight, um, landed 112. Ultimately, I think she just throws a lot. So again, I don't know if that's just her imposing her cardio on somebody and seeing if she can break them because they're tired from always being on the defense, or if that's how she wins a little bit, getting through and enough to um, stop somebody from ever going on the offensive side because they're constantly on defense. But the analysts kept calling for it, and I was thinking the whole time she doesn't throw the body. She's sitting there throwing these combos up top, and they're blocking while this is all open. So it's just like you're playing a video game Mortal Kombat, and all she knows is Sub-Zero's freeze ground move and like I don't know the one in the air. But doesn't know anything else. She doesn't know any combos, all that stuff. Like she's just the same moves. So that kind of worried me. I say she has a karate style. She does a little bit, but when I say karate style, I want to see like a Stephen Thompson full sideways in and out. She doesn't have that necessarily, but she does use a side kick a lot to keep her opponents back. Eventually, somebody's probably going to catch that and handle it. But they're calling for her if she wins this to fight Shevchenko, or what's her name, Ballerina. I don't think she can beat her, but that's a whole nother story. I'm watching Caitlyn. I was a little worried watching her against their common opponent, and she's really tall. They kind of fought the same way in that fight. They both won. I would say Caitlyn took a little more damage in this fight, but she uses like a front kick as a push kick rather than the side kick. She is taller. It's noticeable in their common opponent. I just think she's more inclined to take damage, and again, I don't think that the karate in and out is exactly there, but I do think that Feriut is going to be able to hit and not get hit. I don't know how many strikes will actually land to do damage, but she's going to throw a crap ton of them. And I just see her being able to enough get in and out. Caitlyn, I did like see some of her like moving, sticking and moving, going down. But I think Feriot's a little stronger too and probably will just pick her up. I don't know how good her ground game is, but she's strong enough where she's going to pick her up and put her down, at least for a little bit. Whether she gets up or not, I don't know. But just she feels a little younger too, even though I think they're the same age. Next to Gamrot and Benil Dariush. I was back and forth on this, back and forth. Early on, I was like, oh, dude, give me Benny, easy. Then I was like, I don't know. And then again, this is kind of like where people are looking at like Bilal Muhammad. They look at this and Benny and go, oh, two premier names and they're underdogs. It's a no-brainer. I started to look at Gamrot a lot, and Gamrot's actually bigger than Benny, which is weird because I think Gamrot used to fight at 145. I think that's what he was a champion at 145, not in UFC. And some other crap promotion. But this Sarukian fight, I don't think he won it. I watched that live. It was a close fight. I see it as a loss. So these 4 in a row, I'm going, he hasn't lost a while. Doesn't really apply to my logic. Also, these two guys, excuse me, super tired. Diego Fiera, they both fought him. The difference is Gamrot got the TKO technically. I think he hit Fiera in the ribs with a knee. It kind of looked like some freak stuff, so I don't really give him credit for it. I like the way the fight was going. Benny had the same fight with him. Benny took a little more punishment in that fight, but Benny was kind of just walking him down and exchanging punches and taking them intentionally, which kind of worried me. That's what started to worry me about him facing Gamrot. If he sits there and he walks Gamrot down and just lets Gamrot hit him, he's going to go to sleep. I don't want to see that happen. But ultimately, I was watching some other UFC pick show, and they both went with Gamrot, but just kind of the way they hyped up Benny and made me just think about a couple things again. And the only thing they were worried about was his injury. And to me, I don't think Benny would be come back if he wasn't ready. Benny's a down dude. He says yes to everything. The uh, he wanted the Islam fight, and they should have made him wait. That fight should be happening right now. And somebody else should be fighting Charles or whatever. But here we are. I think Benny. I put on my Instagram today. I think Benny's getting screwed, especially if he wins this. He's getting screwed again because now Volk is going to get the title shot. So what's Benny do? Sit around for a year? It's just unfortunate for him how many wins he's been able to string together. I like, even though Benny looks like, that's funny is Benny looks like he's about 44 because he's had gray hair probably since he was 20. He's 33 and Gamrot's 31. Okay, not that far off, but Gamrot just looks a little older even though Benny has gray hair. Gray in his hair. They call that peppered wisdom hair. All that to say, I'm taking Benny. I had to go with Benny. The last second, I have to see if he is what he says he is, and if he is, I don't think he's fallen off like that. So he hasn't lost in a long time. I feel like Gamrot lost his last fight. It should be a great fight. There could be a knockout on either side. I could see Gamrot getting the knockout more than Benny, but I just see Benny imposing his will on him and trying to take him down. And ultimately, I think that's maybe give him the edge. I think because does Azuki fight Gamrot's last fight? They scrapped a lot and were trying to take each other down, but he never got kept there. I think Benny can keep him on the ground. So I'm taking Benny. Sean O'Malley, Peter Yan. I bet on this fight September 2nd. I put out parlay with everybody. I told y'all when Whitaker fought on the last card when he fought Vittori. And I took Cyril Gahn, I took Whitaker, and then I took the Leech against Tony. That one got scratched. And then I took the O'Malley fight. I took Muhammad Makayev and Sterling and Dillashaw. So with this, I will say I took Sean O'Malley on that. I put $100 down on it, won like $1,500 something. Now I think it's gonna be closer to 12 because of the scratch fight between the Leech and Tony, which I was very confident in. So that sucks. But the wild card on there was O'Malley. Early on was announced, so I was like, Jan's going to whoop O'Malley. Then I kind of thought about it, especially being in a 3-round fight, and it's not in Vegas, it's not in a smaller octagon. These things work in favor of Sean. Sean's going to be able to keep the distance, use his length. Peter Yan starts slow. We know this. He's also used for 5-round fights, so even if he wants to start a little faster, I think the difference in the 3 and 5 is still he's going to have to adjust. It's just what he does. He starts very slow in his fights. I don't even think it's intentional. It's just what he does. So Sean absolutely should and has to win the first round. From there, the second round is going to be very important. Sean needs to win the first and second. He does not want to win the first, lose the second, and then have to win the third. Because if that's the case, he's going to have to go balls to the wall with Peter Yan, and Peter Yan's going to lay it on him regardless in that third round. And especially if it's the fight's on the line or Jan's behind, Sean's going to need to be evasive in that third round and not getting hit. And if it's tied 1-1, it's not good for him. Sean needs to win the first 2 rounds and then be evasive in the third round. If Yan takes him down, Yan obviously should win this fight. So everybody's asking, well, why are you picking Sean O'Malley? And I have Yan winning. Everybody has Yan winning. Part of it I will say is because at the time it was the odds. And when I thought about it, the things I just gave you the factors and why I think that Sean can win, I'm saying Sean absolutely will win. Sean can win. And on top of this, it's time for Sean to prove it or shut up. Sean feels like he won that last fight with Pedro Munoz. He poked him in the eye. Newsflash, you lost the first round. And if you lose the first round against Peter Yan, you're going to lose the fight. So hopefully somebody behind closed doors has said, hey, psst, Sean, you didn't win that round. You were absolutely slow. Well, we just kind of moved around but never threw anything. I know he thinks that he figured out Pedro's distance. I didn't think he did. I would have loved to see a second round because, to be honest, like and I bet on Sean. If it wouldn't have been stoppage and Pedro won, I'd have lost a lot of money. That was on the card with Izzy, and I went 12-0 on that card. And Sean would have ruined everything. I mean, it did ruin some odds, but I still got my money on that. I ended up winning like $700 that night. Sean would have ruined all that. To be honest, he did kind of ruin it because if Sean wouldn't have been no contest in that bet, I would have won like $1,500. Just on the bets that I had Sean in that lowered the odds when I went back and looked at what they broke me off on versus whatever. But yeah, he needs to win that first round. So I hope he's not truly in denial and saying that he won the first round because he didn't. But I'm going with O'Malley. Partially my money's on him, and also what I just told you. He has what it takes to win that fight. We're just going to see if he does and what he's made of and how his training is and how his coach is. If he comes out like that in this fight, perhaps it's time to start looking for a new coach to take you to the next level, because you're not going to get to the next level believing things that aren't real. If you're thinking you're winning rounds and you're not winning, you need somebody else in your corner to give you the real. On to Dillashaw, the cheating piece of crap, and Aljamain Sterling. That being said, obviously I'm not taking TJ Dillashaw. I hate TJ Dillashaw. I think he's an absolute cheater. I think he robbed Cody Garbrandt of his career. The dude shouldn't be fighting in the UFC. He's a bum. Can't stand him. He's a little piece of crap. I think there should be a 30 for 30 someday on Cody Garbrandt's career and how it was robbed, because TJ Dillashaw beat him twice. Now, give him both these fights. Cody Garbrandt, I know I'm going off track here, but I'm passionate about this. Cody Garbrandt had both those fights won. He rushed and let Dillashaw end up getting the finish against him. But the dude was dirty. He was cheating the whole time. There's nothing, you can't put that back in the bag. You can't take back Cody Garbrandt's KOs. Cody Garbrandt was about to fight soon, and they scratched his fight. Cody, please don't even fight anymore. It's over. It's done. You've been hit too many times. You've been rocked too many times. What Cody Garbrandt did to win his title in that fight against Don is absolutely one of the best performances in UFC history. And the dude had, this trajectory. He could have been a Hall of Famer. And I think TJ Dillashaw cheating stole that from him. He cheated it from him. They should go back and just give. Yeah, it's really annoying. Can't stand TJ Dillashaw. Shout out to Cody Garbrandt. It sucks. Retire. Aljamain shuts up and he puts things together. None of these guys can touch him in there. I knew Aljamain was going to win the belt eventually. The first performance against Peter Yan, I don't know what the deal was. It was terrible. He got worked. Then he accidental headbutt. I thought he was a complete weenie for acting it out the way he did, taking him out. But he redeemed himself against Peter Yan the second time the way I thought he would the first time. But even that one, if you watch that, Peter turns on the third round. Sterling just tries to kind of stay alive. That's what O'Malley needs to do against Yan. But the difference is Sterling can grapple. He can put you in the body triangle and choke you. Ask Corey Sandhagen. Sean hasn't shown us he can do any of that. As Sean says he's good on the ground, we'll find out. From that, I'm taking Aljamain Sterling. My money's there. Funkmaster, let's go. TJ Dillashaw, hope you break your ankle on the way out of the octagon. Charles Oliveira versus Islam Makhachev. I was back and forth on this like crazy. When it first got announced, I said I got Charlie Olives. Easy. Not so fast, my friends, as Lee Corso would say in his very old age. Dude, what if I had like a head to put on her? I could be like, oh, my Charles Oliveira head. Some of y'all get that. Some of y'all won't. College football. Anyway, when I look at this fight, I look at Islam, obviously, better grappler, wrestler. Charles, better jiu-jitsu. He's getting a lot of credits for the striking, and I don't necessarily agree with it. I think Michael Chandler should be champion of the world when they fought. I thought Chandler should have got that stoppage. Depending what ref it was, he would have. And I'm also mad at Chandler because the way he just fights him, his fight's reckless, and he should have won. But as we've seen, Charles has been clipped in like his last 3 fights. He squeezes out a way to win, and people drop him and then they don't want to jump in his guard. Islam is not going to be afraid to jump in his guard. If Islam drops him, I don't even know if Islam's going to drop him. I think Islam is very quick feints, twitching feints. If you ever watch, Sterling does it too, but like, let's say Izzy's probably the best at it. Izzy has the best feints in the world, constantly just faking things. Islam's pretty quick at that. Better than Khabib was. Khabib had some power in his punches that people didn't respect because a part of it, they were also having to look for the takedown, so they weren't expecting to get punched. So it allowed him to use his power and punch him. When he dropped Connor, Islam's really strong. I can see him getting some punches too, but I also don't see him sitting there just trading with Charles. And if you're going to bring up Charles' striking, then you have to look at Islam's opponent. So people go, oh, he hasn't fought anybody. Well, that's kind of rude and dismissive. I know we say Dan Hooker. Oh, Dan Hooker. Man, there was a point 2 years ago where Dan Hooker was the man. And he's had some fights he shouldn't have taken, or he got mocked by Michael Chandler. Great. I think Michael Chandler beats Islam and Charles if he fought Charles again and he fights Islam. So, I mean, it's not like Dan Hooker got beat by some guy off the street. See, and on top of it, you look at strikers. He fought Drew Dober and Bobby Green. Strikers. Very, very good strikers. And he completely mopped the floor with them. I mean, Dober went in the third round, did his best. But if I remember correctly, Dober was bleeding and he was completely just gassed. And Dober has a great gas tank. Bobby Green got murked in the first round. It was nothing. So Charles Oliveira is not a better striker than either one of those guys. Probably even better than Hooker. So for people to see him go, oh, well, he's got the striking ability, and I think he found the right partners to dance with and has some lucky comebacks. There's not going to be a room for that here. I think Islam gets him to the ground. Could Charles maybe get him in the arm bar or, catch him slipping and take his back or something like that? Yeah, but Islam's made for this, and that's where it's going to have to be. It's not going to be... A lot of times when people say grapplers or wrestlers fight each other, they end up settling at standing up. It happens a lot of times. It's not going to happen here. Islam and Charles are not going to sit here and just trade punches. I love Charles Oliveira. I would like to see his rise and his persona, and maybe he believes kind of the way he's acting. But he's not Mike Tyson, dude. If he beats Islam, great. Then you're the greatest lightweight of all time. But I don't see it happening. When I look at ways to win, I just see Islam just grinding it out for 5 rounds. Or maybe I don't give him as much submission respect as Charles. But for Charles to win, I only see one way of Charles winning. And that's by getting a submission. And I just don't know if he's going to get submission if Islam is shooting for takedowns and getting him himself. So I could see either one of these guys getting dominated. When I really thought about this fight early on, I said somebody's getting whooped. I don't know who it is. But as of right now, I'm going to say it's Charles. Charles is going to get whooped. Sucks because I like Charles. And deep down I'm pulling for him. But on the surface I'm not because I'm putting money behind Islam. So let's go Islam Makhachev. Those are my picks. 280s here. Thank you for watching. It's going to be awesome. Shout out again to everybody who participated in the parlay split. We'll do more going forward on next pay-per-views and such. Maybe make them a little bit bigger. But it's a good chance for us to win money and split the money. Other than that, shout out. Appreciate y'all watching. Talk to y'all later. Good luck on your bets.